Guys, I hate to say it, but I think Godzilla Minus One really spoiled us. I was just not excited for the new Empire at all. The trailer did nothing for me. Oh look, Godzilla and Kong are teaming up. Oh look, they're fighting some other monster together, whoop-de-doo. It's got a huge budget, loads of CG, action all over the place. And I just didn't care. I think about Minus One, which did so much with so little, was so emotionally impactful that it brought me to tears several times, which had such a powerful human story that made me feel so many different things. And then I walk into New Empire, and it's like the polar opposite of all that stuff. There's action, 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 huge set pieces, kaiju battles, cities getting destroyed. It ticks a lot of the boxes you want with a blockbuster movie like this, but for the longest time watching it, I kept asking myself why I felt so completely disengaged from it. And I didn't realize what the issue was until later that night. There's a couple of them, but the big one for me was that there was no human connection. In Minus One, they focused a lot on the human tragedy of dealing with Godzilla, of the price the characters pay, how Godzilla impacts human society, and how they struggle to recover from it. When Godzilla showed up, you were scared that this person might not make it to safety. You were sad when that person was caught in the blast. You were hoping that this other person could get over his PTSD in time to help fight Godzilla. It really made you care about the characters and what happened to them. In New Empire, there's none of that. In fact, as I look back on it now, I don't think the main characters are ever even actually in danger in this film. I could be remembering wrong, but I don't think so. Sure, one or two side characters might not make it, but anyone who does anything to affect the plot is kept pretty safe. And the characters who don't, well, they don't really matter at all. I mean, you see multiple cities getting decimated here, but would you even blink if every human in them was wiped out? No, because they're all just background extras or CG people running around like insects. And there are four main characters we spend some time with, but at best they feel like bystanders. Like they're just standing around and watching while Godzilla and Kong f shit up. And I'm not saying the humans don't do anything, because that's not right, they do, but at the end of the day, they're pretty inconsequential. And two of these main characters you could have taken out of the movie and not even missed them because they're just doing comic relief or facilitating the plot or giving exposition. And speaking of the plot, Jesus Christ, I miss the days when these movies kept things simple, when they were just about Godzilla or Kong fighting some other monster, and maybe there were some human characters who weren't annoying that you wanted to see get through this. But now we've reached a point where the studio is desperate to keep the franchise going, so they keep adding new twists and new lore and backstory, and it's just getting weirder and weirder all the time. It's not about a monster and the humans trying to survive it anymore. Now it's about Hollow Earth having different sublevels, some ancient clan of telepathic tribal people, evil giant monkeys enslaving other titans with magic powers and lassoing skyscrapers with melee weapons, bringing back titans from previous movies for 5 minutes just so they can do almost nothing. Kong has a fucking Iron Man arm now? I mean, where exactly did we lose the plot here? It's all just getting so complicated and ridiculous and silly, and I don't know why we need all that stuff when the movie can't even come up with more than 2 characters who have me giving a shit whether they live or die. They introduce so many weird new concepts, a lot of them don't even go anywhere, and the ones that do don't go anywhere interesting, and they tried to get so fancy and profound with it, but it really just felt tacked on, because it's all just in service of building up a fight with Godzilla and Kong versus a bunch of other monsters with the human characters watching from a safe distance. And I barely even cared who won, because the ramifications of this if Godzilla and Kong lose just get exposited to us like thousands of years ago such and such believed that this horrible thing would happen. Who gives a shit? Show me something. Show me why I need to be invested. Show me these monsters invading the surface world. Show me a character I care about being put in danger because of it. Just give me something real and simple and tangible to hold on to, because if all your movie is a bunch of giant CG monsters fighting each other in a giant CG fest, that's not interesting. We've seen that a lot. We know what it looks like now, and it's gonna take a lot more than Godzilla and Kong having a common enemy for a few minutes in the climax to make it look any different. The monster battles themselves are fine. There's nothing wrong with them exactly, except for how overly goofy they get on occasion, but you have a really hard time caring about them because they all just feel kind of empty. Even the big moment when Godzilla and Kong finally team up to fight the other monsters feels weirdly unexciting. It looks cool, but that's kind of it. The movie doesn't even give a shit when entire cities are getting wrecked. Where's the cost of human life? Where's the struggle to fight back and survive? It's just not there. There's no drama, there's no tension, nothing to sink your teeth into. It's just giant CG creatures beating the shit out of each other in increasingly weird and silly situations. Now there is one saving grace here. One, there's a story about Rebecca Hall and her daughter. She has to involve the kid in the dangerous stuff going on in Hollow Earth. She doesn't want to, but they need the kid because of X, Y, and Z, so she has no choice but to bring her daughter into this, and she does it even though she knows there's a chance that she might lose her daughter in the process. This, to me, was the only genuinely interesting thing in the film, and even that was mostly because of Rebecca Hall's acting. The story itself gets really weird, and the plot with the daughter is probably the most bonkers stuff the movie does, but when you get rid of all that and boil it down to the basic plot of a mother being afraid to lose her daughter, that's when I cared. Because that was the only part of the movie that had some emotion behind it, something genuine at stake, some reason to give a shit. You buy into the relationship between these two, you sympathize with Rebecca Hall's character, and even though the movie doesn't necessarily lean on this angle that much, they had a scene together at the end that actually got me a little watery-eyed. If they had just gotten rid of all the silly, wacky stuff, all the new lore that gets more ridiculous the more we learn about it, this weird subplot with Kong and some baby ape that goes on forever, a bunch of the superfluous kaiju battles that feel as unengaging to sit through as they are impressive to watch, and just focused on that, they might have had something here. I'm not saying that would have saved the movie or anything, but it would have made it more compelling than the damn thing is now. I didn't have high expectations for Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, but I was still surprised by how disposable this movie felt. It focuses a lot on the big CG monster battles, but there's so little substance in them they actually become dull pretty quickly. They spend a lot of time expanding the lore, but it's so weird and goofy, and it's really transparent that the only reason for this is so they can keep making sequels. Meanwhile, the only thing in the movie that's really worth caring about, the mom and her daughter, is the last thing on the filmmakers' minds a lot of the time. The film certainly isn't a disaster. I've already seen much worse shit this year, but for all its huge CG action set pieces, you'll probably have forgotten all about this movie within a week or two. My advice to the studio, forget all the fancy schmancy stuff and get back to something simple, because these movies are getting too big, too weird, and too impressed with themselves for their own good. They can make a cool looking monster fight, but if the fight has so little behind it that you don't feel anything, then what's the point? Thanks so much for watching. While you're here, do all the other YouTube things, ding the bell icon, and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The links are down there. And most importantly, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you're still subscribed, because what really deserves to have its teeth knocked out by Kong sporting some giant bullshit Iron Man arm is the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now. I'll be back with more soon. Take care, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.